Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk women's gymnastics with Becky. Becky, thanks for being here again this week.
You're welcome.
And, we were talking last week that this was going to be your final home meet of the season. It was going to be senior night, and we wanted to get your thoughts before and now after for senior night. What was it like for you to go through senior night this year?
I started the meet with a lump in my throat. You know, you get those seniors ready to march out for their last hurrah there, and it was so emotional. I mean, when you have 7 of them that have played such a key role in putting this program together and keeping it together, and whatever, you know, when I saw them getting ready to march in, I was like choked up or whatever. And actually, Asa came over when we were doing the pledge and grabbed my hand and said, "Here, hold my hand," or whatever. I'm like, okay, keep it together, because you can't lose it because we haven't even started the meet yet.
Right.
So anyhow, you know, they did a great job. Everybody had a really good meet, which was really cool. We had a really good meet, which was super cool. But when we did the speeches at the end, I did the introduction to them, and I was like, I need to stop. Because it was. I just looked at those girls and I'm like, they're gone. They're done here forever, and they mean a lot to me. They are like my daughters, and like I said, you turn them out, and you know, you see them off and on, in and out, whatever, sporadically. But it's you know, you're used to being with them 5 days a week and 6 days a week, and for 4 years going through every gamut of every emotion with them. You know, the very joyful moments and tearful moments, and you know, through their growth processes and sharing ideas and learning from them and them learning from me. And it's hard. It's really hard to turn 7 of them away.
Yeah. Do you have an alumni night? Do you have reunions or get back together? We
started that a couple of years ago, so every other year is an alumni meet now.
Okay.
And it went over really well the first couple of times because it hadn't been done for a long time. So they have a little get-together, a social hour before the meet, and then have them come in and march out on the floor like they did at one time and salute to the crowd. And yeah, it was really fun. So next year will be an alumni year, and I expect maybe we'll have 7 people show up to share in that day.
And then, you know, throughout your career at Winona High and at Winona State here, you know, thousands maybe of athletes have gone through. Have you kind of been able to track their progress, or have some gone into coaching, or have you looked at any of that?
Well, I'm very fortunate that 99% of the kids that I coach stay in contact. You know, I get Christmas cards, I get emails, I get notes, I get texts, I get whatever, because we build a really close relationship. And so I'm quite familiar with almost all their pasts and what they're doing in their lives and how many babies they've had and this and that. So it's really cool, and there are many of them that are into coaching. It's in some way, shape, or form that they have decided, hey, I want to give back to the sport that I love. And then I'm like, well, now you understand from my perspective. When I'd get so excited, like when they would do something, I'd be like, oh, and I'm more excited than you are that you did that. You know, because when you're a coach and you're helping them get to that point and they finally do it, it really is, to me, a bigger joy than like when I would accomplish something that I'd been trying to do. And now they're like, oh, coach, I get it. It's so fun when they get to do that. So.
Oh, very good. That's a good update. Glad to hear that. All right, so this weekend, 184.525. Great team score. Obviously, it's better than what you did last week. And again, there were first places, there were season bests throughout the night. Tell us a little bit about some of the results from this weekend.
I was very happy. Vault and bars started out remarkably well. I mean, we had stellar performances from the girls throughout the lineup on those. So that was a really fun way for us to start the meet. We knew that beam was going to be a little sketchy, yet we have, you know, a couple kids that we're missing that belong on there. And you rattle with that lineup, and it's hard because, like I said, you've got that fear of going up on 4 inches to do your event there. So we understood that we might struggle there a little bit. Unfortunately, we had to count 2 falls, which is unusual. So that dropped us from a 185 to 184. So we know those girls are capable, and they're just getting more seasoned and more experienced. So by this week now, they've got 4 or 5 meets under their belt, and hopefully that they can hang on to their routines and score for us. But otherwise, as far as performance, we have so little to fix from that meet to this meet. Like the floor girls look great. They all hit their higher level tumbling passes. So what we have is a really good complete package if we can just get the beam squad to hang on to their own. So
You did get a first place on beam. Kelly Johnston was
Yes.
first place on beam. Talk about her routine.
her routine is just stellar. It is so classic and so good. And like I said, she's one of a very few that does the 3 acro series. So she does the hand lay and just nails it. Like she doesn't ripple a muscle when she lands it. And the rest of the routine is very showy. And so it's just really, really fun to watch her. And now I note that other people from other teams are like pointing and, oh, there she is. That's that girl that does the, the 3 series. And she's got a great routine and a great chance of going to nationals with it. So let's hope that she gets another chance to be an All-American this year.
All right, very good. And then Chelsea was first on floor.
She's doing so amazing this year. Like she had freshman year and sophomore year, she still had a lot of doubt about herself and her capabilities and was real hesitant and doesn't like to show off her dance, is a little bit more inhibited than some. And this year she's just coming into her own and she's nailing her passes and looking good and out there, and she looks so polished and she's smiling and having fun and she's doing a great job.
All right, and then you also had Meghan Tran with a season best on bars, Kelly Van Dyke with a season best as well.
Well, Megan didn't do bars. That was a typo.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that.
But yes, Kelly Van Dyke is a former student of ours. She came up through my rec program.
Okay.
And then went to Gustavus and then transferred back to Winona State. So we got her back and we're enjoying her and we're so excited for her because she's coming on strong now and doing really well for us. So, I mean, when you have a kid from this, this size all the way up through college that you've known forever, it's really super exciting for me to see her doing well for us.
All right, we got a little less than 2 minutes left in this segment, but you have kind of one more, I guess, maybe warm up before you have your the playoffs or whatever the playoffs and the regions, the championship, the WIAC championship. So how do you approach this week, knowing that next week would be the championship in regions?
Well, we're doing what we've done all season long. We're saying, where's your extra 10th again? And I mean, the girls have said this as we've had our discussions with the different kids. We're just like, each of you give an extra 10th, that's 2 points extra for the team. So what can you find this week to make it better? We're at that stage of the game where those little tiny 10ths are the things that are going to make a difference because we don't have any big plans to do anything different other than clean up what we have.
All right, very good. We're going to take a break here on Warrior Report. When we come back, Asa Evanson will be here. That's right after this.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-60.
This is going to be epic.
Hey! We got one!
That is a sea snake.
Whoa.
Nobody move, nobody move. There is a shark in the water with us right now. Beautiful. Look at that. Every time they shed their skin, the eye... I just took that one too. The eyeball. Dinner served! Get too close, too close! Oh, he's got the meat. Bite me! Look how bizarre that creature is. How about that? Wow. The Holy Grail.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. Asa Evanson joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, thank you.
So you're an assistant coach at Winona State, and you kind of started that last year. However, your background in gymnastics, including Winona Gymnastics, goes pretty far back to Winona High, when Becky was your coach at Winona High. What do you remember from your career at Winona High?
Oh gosh, lots of things. I have a ton of memories. I think the best part about it was, Becky being kind of like a second mom to all of us. That's probably what, was really kind of the deciding factor for me to be kind of diving back into a coaching role. I think that's kind of a neat place for me to kind of be at this point in my life and to sort of play that incremental, position for young women. And she did such a remarkable job, helping create good foundational relationships. And aside from, just making really great memories, I think it was kind of a defining moment when I was younger.
All right. And I think you were on varsity as far back as 7th grade, is that right?
Yes, yep, I was. It was myself and 2 or 3 others who were part of kind of an initial move to getting some of the younger gymnasts into a more competitive realm. And so that definitely was, we forged a new way for some younger gymnasts around the area. And I think that that's kind of neat. Even, to this day, I mean, I don't even remember the last time I talked about high school gymnastics. But, even to this day, I have people around town, and when I come back and they're like, oh, you were in gymnastics, you were in high school, and I used to follow you. And so it was nice to kind of have that rapport coming back.
All right. And then you were a student at Winona State.
Yep.
And, from up until 2010. I think you graduated in 2010.
I did,
right?
yes, yep.
And then from there, you went, I think you worked for the Minnesota Vikings for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I did, yeah. So I really wanted to work in sports. I studied public relations in school. I also studied Spanish. But I really was kind of into the sports background. It's obviously what I had. Mm-hmm. So I went and applied for some internships when I was a sophomore in college. Ended up getting one, and I stayed on with the Vikings pretty much through my graduating year of 2014. And so it ended up being a place where it was great to have experience. It didn't ultimately end up being some place that I really wanted to end up, I guess. So I went a different route, and I joined a corporate company. I was a national project manager for about 4 years, close to 5, and then made the transition to this. So here we are.
All right. So when did gymnastics start to come back to you, and when did you say, maybe I want to explore this again?
It was really kind of a spur of the moment decision, so to speak. I was just sort of I happened to be with Becky. I wasn't even really supposed to be in town. I just was, and I had been pursuing my own career, and it was sort of, it was slower in the wintertime, and I just said, oh, I mean, I can help out if you need. And she was like, no, I'm not kidding. I'm being serious. And I was like, me too. And so I ended up just doing it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I did it throughout college, but I've not done the college, age till now, and it happens to be a calling, if you will, of mine.
All right. So what was it like to get her back into the fold again?
Well, we were desperate to have any help at the time. I mean, and that's how the discussion started. I was like, I'm so frustrated that we've got 25 kids and not enough hands so that we can get to everybody all the time. And she's like, well, I'm really not doing much during the day, so maybe I could help you. And I'm like, well, don't say that if you don't mean it, because that would be fabulous. And we've been together so long since she's been little, so her style of coaching and her way of dealing with the kids and everything, when I hear her in the background, I'm like, oh my God, there's another me back there. Because I hear some of the same lines I would do and some of the same, our mannerisms, everything matches up so well, so that the kids weren't making a big change about, this is a completely different coaching style. We're not used to this. It was just like, hey, there's just another Becky on the floor. So it just worked out really well for us. She came on board and things worked really well. And obviously, we've clicked and have clicked since she's been little. Right. So it's been a great thing for our program. It's really helped a lot that, she's there to make it fun, and I have somebody that I can turn to, for decision making and this and that understands the sport, understands the kids, and it's worked out really well for us.
All right. I guess last question then. How has it been to kind of go from a student to a colleague of Becky?
It's funny. It's been easier than maybe I would have anticipated in the beginning. It's really been neat to figure out kind of our dynamic together. We sort of just read each other without having to say much, and she's made it nothing but easy for me, and really did a wonderful job kind of creating a good image for me prior to coming in, and the girls really embraced me as well, and so making that transition wasn't necessarily difficult. I think it was more me realizing that I'm someone to be looked up to, as opposed to, not always knowing what I'm doing. I mean, I obviously do, and being confident in that is just something that comes. So.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for being here today, and good luck to both of you as you head towards regionals.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a break here on Warrior Report. When we come back, Mason Rabarczyk from Track and Field will be here right on HBC TV 25.
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style at Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
This is big-time professional football. Fans should expect more plays, less downtime, and more scoring opportunities.
This has been sensational.
The talent in this league is actually unprecedented. We're going to have the opportunity to enjoy football throughout the spring and bring you closer to the game than you've ever been before. This is the XFL.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. Time now to switch to track and field with Mason Rubarczyk. And let's see, where were you this week? Oh yeah, Mankato. Let's talk a little bit about what you did this past week. You placed third in the Maverick Invitational. How did you feel about your team's results?
Another great week. I think, like I said, maybe last week before, we get to the mid-February and that part of the season where hopefully everybody's healthy and we start to turn the corner with our training cycle and good things start to happen. And we had another week in a row of some really good things. Becca Rickman has been slowly moving up her times or improving her times in the 3K and the mile and had a real breakout performance in the mile that she was real excited about. I think she ran 5:01 and that moves her up to third all-time at Winona State history. And the two girls ahead of her, one's an All-American in our Hall of Fame, and the other's a teammate of hers that was at the national meet last year, so that's in pretty great company. And then Kaylee Beyer, freshman, a middle distance runner. She had her first ever her race of the 1,000 meters. It's not a high school event, and had a real great performance there. Ran just over 3 minutes, which is should be top 10 in our conference, I think, and it's also fourth all time in school history. So obviously, anytime a freshman can make the top 10 list, that's pretty exciting. But to be able to first time you've ever run the event to be fourth, that's pretty exciting. In the 200, Maddie Peets, who was on a few weeks ago, and then Michaela Pryor had another great race, another breakout performance for each of them. Michaela hit provisional in the 200, the provisional national mark that we talked about a little bit last week. So she's, I guess for lack of better words, on the list now from the pool of people that they select for nationals. And then of course at the end of the meet, the 4x4 was another great performance. We had two different legs actually than the week before. Wow. And so for them to be able to come out and run that fast again was pretty awesome.
Now, that's kind of consistently been one of your top performers, the 4x400 relay, but as you said, I mean, you've had different people in. Last week, I think you had a freshman that you just kind of threw into the mix, and this week now two different legs. How common is that to have that many different people running that event? Yeah,
thankfully, we're pretty deep and talented at that event this year. We've had some injuries and people sick, and so that's why we've seen a lot of different people running the relay this year. There's a lot of people out there with national level 4x4s that their top two are really incredible, and then their third falls off, and then their fourth. It's like, man, we're just glad to have somebody to fill in that fourth spot. And so if somebody gets hurt, you're stuck. But thankfully for us, we're really deep. Our fourth person could really be any one of really 6 people right now. So when somebody does get sick or injured, being able to slide somebody else in is pretty incredible. Most years, if not every year that we've ever made nationals, we're just kind of scratching and clawing to get into that top 10 or top 12 to make sure we make the meet. And to be able to come out of last week, number 2 in the country, this week a couple schools bumped ahead of us, so I think we're 4th, but also to know that, hey, we swapped out half of our relay, and to know that that next group could still run a time that, I guess I haven't checked, but we're probably somewhere in the top 5, 6, or 7, even with that second squad with 2 different legs on it. I feel really blessed and honored to have a group like that. It's really fun to be a part of.
Do you have a set anchor in that event, or does that kind of rotate?
It can rotate. Brooklyn has done such a great job. I think we talked about last week. She's just so consistent, whether we're in the lead or we're behind. She just does a great job. And the other one that's pretty well set is the leadoff. Callie has done, I think, all of last year as As a sophomore, she was our leadoff, and once you find somebody who does a good job at the leadoff and they like doing that, a lot of times I'll stick with it for most of the rest of their career. But otherwise, the other 4 people have been a lot of intermixing for those middle 2 spots.
Okay, I want to go back to Kaylee Beyer for just a second, because you were talking about the 1,000 not being a high school event. So is that another one of those events where you kind of maybe audition or ask if anybody's interested, or do you pick and say, oh, I think you might be able to do that?
It's one of those where, you know, the field events are more the ones or the technical events are more the ones you got to find somebody that's never done it before. Something like a 600 meters or 1,000 meters that isn't a high school event, it's still close to the distance of other events they run. So really anybody that runs the 800 or the mile, it's just between those, and so those people will run the 1,000. Or like a 600 meters, someone that runs the 400 or the 800, moving up or down one distance isn't really a big deal. So typically most of our half milers and milers will run 1,000 at some point. It's just not a national event. It's one of a couple of events that we do in our conference that aren't national events. So we don't run as many of them, knowing that there isn't a chance to move beyond to the postseason.
Okay, well, let's talk about now the postseason, because that's upon us this coming weekend. You talked about the fact off camera that where you place in the NSIC championships doesn't necessarily matter about who moves on to nationals, but you still want to place well.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. Yep. You know, I know football and baseball and a lot of those sports, most ball sports, I think, have that automatic qualifier. If you win your conference, then you get the bid to postseason. And of course, track and field being primarily an individual sport, certainly there's a lot of team aspect to it, and there's a team score. But as far as getting to the championships for the NCAA, you do that on an individual basis, not as a team. So there's no automatic berth to nationals out of conference, but absolutely any championship meet, I mean, it's kind of the pinnacle of your season and pinnacle of your career, and you always want to be able to come out of the championship with trying to win and do the best you can, both for yourself and, of course, for the team.
Do you have a feel of who might do well this weekend?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, you look at the honor roll, and our athletic director, Eric Show, he says no sport is more predictable than track and field. You know, if you're fast, you're fast. Yeah. And it's not like you've got a lot of strategy going on. But yeah, certainly, you know, we've got a lot of people that we've mentioned already today, really, that are in those spots to score the 4x4. You know, we haven't run a distance medley relay yet, but the people we've got in it, I think are going to do an outstanding job. Maddie and Michaela in the 200. Probably at least 3 or 4 of our quarter milers, I think, should make a final. Anna and Becca should do outstanding, I think, in their events. Kaylee, who we talked about earlier, and some of our jumpers. You know, Christy's ranked right up there. Madison, Reisner in the triple jump. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people right now, but those are, I think, a lot of our people who've hit a national mark, or at least are kind of near the top of the conference.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about them next week as well.
I hope so.
We have about a minute left, so I want to go back to the 4x400 relay. I want to make sure we get all that in first. But for the 4x400 relay, do you kind of have a feel if you need to replace somebody? Because we had talked about in practice, you don't actually run something in practice. So how do you know who to throw in there if you need somebody to fill in?
That's a great question, and one that some of my athletes lately have said, I'm glad I don't have your job and have to make those decisions, because with the group that we have, having so many talented, it really comes down to either the open 400 times that they've run or splits that they've run in a relay, is basically what it comes down to. And then the other thing is, depending on the week, you know, it might be we're several years ago, we had already won the conference meet with one event to go, so we pulled our top girl, Meghan Tran, out of the 4x4 that year because we had already won the meet. She had already run, I don't even know, 5 events, and she was going to be going on to nationals, and I think 2 events, and we didn't want to push her too far so that it'd be hard for her to recover for the championships, for the nationals a couple weeks later. So, you know, it depends, you know, the top 4 that are healthy, that make sense for the strategy of that day, are really the people that are going to be in it.
And everybody's right. I'm glad I don't have that job to figure that
That's
out.
Right.
All right. We're going to take a break here on the Warrior Report. When we come back, Michaela Pryor will join us right after this.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price.
Perfect.
Is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-60.
Welcome
Welcome to the greatest competition ever assembled.
Missed an episode of Fox's new hit competition series?
Yippee-ki-yay, Lego Masters!
Watch anytime.
I am super stressed out.
Calm down.
You don't understand Lego.
1 hour left, everybody!
Which team will go the distance?
No!
Now we're making reality television.
Lego Masters, all new Wednesdays or anytime on demand or Fox Now.
By giving a voice to the dead, have you always been here?
We bring peace to the living.
We just want to help this family.
We can hear you.
So he's watching already. We do what we do for a reason.
You want to talk to us now? Are you ready? There's some weird voices in here. That was crazy.
All new season of Kindred Spirits starts Friday at 9 on Travel Channel.
And welcome back to the Warrior Report here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. Now Michaela Pryor joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to go back a little bit to your high school days and talk about how you kind of got involved in what you were involved in track and field. You were a sprinter originally in high school, but then you got into hurdles. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I got into hurdles a little bit in my sophomore year, and it was mainly 300 hurdles. I never did 100 hurdles or anything. And one of my teammates was actually a hurdler, and we did a lot of the same events, and so they just threw me in it in one of the practices, and then they never took me out.
Well, I bring it up because it's interesting. In your sophomore year, you took up hurdling. You placed 6th in state in the 300 hurdles, and then you were 5th your junior year, which is incredible for something that you just took up. Can you talk about the experience of going to state in an event that maybe you weren't really all that comfortable in?
Yeah, I had an awesome coach for hurdling. I got really close with him. He was kind of like a father figure to me. So it was really easy to just go to practice and kind of listen to what he had to say. And along with 300 hurdles, it's more like get over the hurdle, try to go really fast, sprint really fast, and then get over another hurdle. So it kind of came naturally, I guess.
Okay, and now you're not doing that anymore here.
No.
Now you're in long jump.
Yeah, a little bit. We're testing out the waters in long jump.
Okay, and how's that going so far?
It's good. I did a couple meets last year in long jump, and then I've done one this year indoor so far, so I'm excited for outdoor to see what happens.
Okay, now we've kind of gone over the topic of auditioning people and finding out what they can do and what they might want to do. How important is flexibility in an athlete and in thinking, well, maybe I'll try this instead?
Yeah, you mean physical flexibility or mental flexibility?
Maybe both.
Yeah, I was going to say the physical flexibility, that's not a big deal. We don't talk about that a lot, but just having the mentality of being willing to learn something new. It's just a matter of taking people that are talented and seeing if they've got some aptitude for something else. You know, the most important part of the long jump and the 100 hurdles is just your flat out speed. So to take somebody who's a talented athlete, who's got some great top end speed, and see if there's something else they can do to give them an opportunity to be successful at something else besides what they normally do in college and have fun at something else while still doing, her main thing is the 100 and the 200. So still being able to do those things, but see if there's something else that she can do that she enjoys that might also help the team.
All right, well, we talked about the fact this weekend you did really well in the 200. Can you tell us about the race this weekend?
I knew I didn't want to set certain times in my head, but I kind of did on PRing, and you always want to see yourself improve, and I think PRing most of the meets that I have been, it's just been really reassuring for the training we've been going through. So it was really nice to see those numbers.
All right, we've kind of mentioned this topic before, but when you're done with the race, are you happy with your time when you look at it, or do you think, oh, I could have done better than that?
For the most part, I'm happy with it, but once I've cooled down and stuff, then I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do next week? I always want to improve, so I'm always looking forward to better times.
Okay, so with the NSIC Championships now coming up this weekend, what does this week look like for you preparing for that and trying to do your best in the championships?
Just staying healthy mainly. We've obviously had a lot of sick and injured people, so I'm just trying to stay healthy and train just like we have been.
Okay, do you have any goal set for this week then?
Good question. I would obviously like to make it to nationals, and I have to PR a certain amount to do that, so I would like to do that. But I would just still like to see PRs, so any amount would be great.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here this week, and
Thank
good
you.
luck this weekend, both of you.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching Warrior Report here on TV 25. We'll see you next week here on HBC.